This is the problem working with fine gold. So I've already bounced as much gold as I could up towards the rim of the pan, and you can see I got some gold up there at the top, but coming back down here into the concentrates, you can see gold scattered everywhere.
Welcome, my name is Chris. This is Prospecting for Adventure. I just showed you a pan that a lot of us have after going prospecting or mining. We bring concentrates home, and if we have fine gold in those concentrates, it can be very difficult to remove. For this problem, I introduced you the golden rule and the classifying system to achieve it. I'm going to demonstrate the golden rule, why it's important, and how to use the classifying system. The golden rule: when everything is the same size, gold rules. When everything in the pan is the same size, gold will be the heaviest mineral in the pan. If there are minerals larger than your pieces of gold, it may not be the heaviest, and it'll be more difficult to isolate and remove from your pan. So if you have super fine gold in your pan, like I did in that pan you saw at the beginning, it doesn't take minerals very large, bigger than that piece of gold, that will make it more difficult to remove. When you're peeling all that sand and other stuff back, you're going to be washing that bigger stuff out of the way and the fine gold at the same time. That's why you have to make everything the same size. This is a new classifying system that has just been released by the makers of Gold Cube. As you can see, I'm a big fan of Gold Cube. I have the Gold Cube. I have like 7 or 8 layers now. I have the pick, and out in the shed I have the gold banker. The first thing you might notice about this new classifying system is the compact design and the interchangeable screens. There's a 16 screen Pro Pack, screen sizes, oh boy, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 30, 40, 50, 70, 100, 200, and 400. Or you can get the cleanup pack with 4 screens, 16, 30, 50, and 100. But I am personally super excited to try the 200 and 400 on that gold that I can't get out of this pan. I have here 3 different types of material that I want to classify through this system. The first one is clean Southern Oregon gold. I'll use that one to show the different size gold and screens. The second is the stubborn Super Cons pan. I'll use that one to demonstrate how to use the classifier. Lastly, the third pan is more stubborn cons from Cape Disappointment, Washington.
Here's an extra tip: when you're working with multiple classifiers, get a little tub for each size and make sure that you mark them so you don't lose track of what size it is, because when you're using this many screens, it can get pretty confusing what size the gold is. So this set was technically built to dry classify. There's a chance that water could leak out of the seals on here, or there is no seal, so it might drip a little bit. So for meshes between 70 and 400, you absolutely have to classify dry, because the water doesn't pass through these screens all that well. It'll drip, but it's not going to pass through it, helping you classify the material. Another thing I want to point out is that these are stainless steel screens. All of the labeling is laser etched. Since this set is so compact, you are limited to the amount of material, the capacity of these little containers. So this specific brand of ice cream, or gelato, fancy, it happens to have the same size threads as the classifier. So you can really expand your capacity with these. To demonstrate on how to use the classifier, I'm going to use my clean Oregon gold from the last couple years. Just gonna pour it on in. Alright, step 1 was put your material in the jar. Next, you want to take the largest screen mesh that you're going to start out with, the label side down. Next, you want to put the black ring on. Okay, the black ring is trapping the screen onto the lower jar. Now I'm putting the second jar on the top, screwing it down. Next, I want to flip it over, give it a little shake, a little tap. One warning about this: the first couple times you use it, you might end up with a little bit of static inside on the plastic. I don't know if you can see this, but I have little fine micro gold sticking to the jar. Even with surface tension of the water, this kind of gold can just float away. So it's always wise to keep an eye on or consider this type of gold when you're processing this stuff down, because it's easy to lose. Next, you want to unscrew the black ring. Flip the jar over. Remove the larger ring. This is everything above 1/4. Next size down, I'm doing 6 mesh. Flip it over, tap, tap, tap. Take the top off, let's unscrew the black ring. And when I take these off, I'm setting them aside over here in a tray just in case there's any fine gold stuck to it. This is the 6 mesh gold. Isn't that pretty? The next screens I'm doing are 16, 30, 50, and 100. These screens are in the cleanup pack, and it continue down to 200 and 400, which are in the Pro pack. And so is the 1/4 and 6 that I used. This is a 16 mesh. For the rest of it, I'm just going to speed up because I think you get the process now. Real quick before I move on, this was everything above 1/4, above 6 mesh, 16 mesh, 30 mesh, 50 mesh, 100 mesh, 200 mesh, 400 mesh, 'Uh-oh. Jar's full. No. Now to process my supercons, I'm going to skip the classifying process and go straight to showing you the material already classified down. I'm going to wet it down again and pan it out to show you how that golden rule applies. So I'm done classifying. Here's the 16 plus. There's the 30, 50, 100, 200, and 400. Next step is to get this wet and pan the gold out. So I'm starting with my 16 plus. Gonna pan it out just to make sure there's no gold left in there, but I don't think there's gonna be anything until I get down to like 50 minus. I'm just using a catch pan in my tub here. That way I can easily clean the tub out, and if I want to repan the material I can. When you're starting out, it's always a good idea to have a safety pan. When you're doing pay dirt or you have some good concentrates and you're new to panning, it's always good to have a safety pan. And I've been panning for a while now, and I still keep my concentrates throughout the whole year. And then like this pan of Super Cons, I've been adding on to this for a while now.
The 16 plus probably has the most material, and I'm going to end up drying it out again and picking all the lead out.
Alright, my 16 plus, I had a super thin flake that I probably panned out on accident, and then this rusty dark one that was coated in some kind of iron staining, which I had just missed it at some point in time. So next I'm doing 30. For 30 mesh, I had 2 little flakes in there. Oh, maybe a third right there in the center. But this is a good reason to follow the golden rule. When everything is the same size, the gold is the heaviest. As you can see, all these little flakes of lead, cinnabar, and garnets in here, little copper chunks even. It was way easier to pan those little 2 pieces out when everything was the same size. And this material right here, removing this from the fine gold, this stuff can really wreak havoc on trying to extract that fine gold, because the amount of water that it takes to move these little pieces of lead and other heavy minerals, you're also moving the tiny micro gold out of the way too. Next up is the 50 mesh. So this material is actually concentrates from when I ran the gold banker. Next up, 100 mesh. Alright, so going back to that original clip in the beginning, I basically showed you that pan at the extent that I just panned this back, and almost none of this gold was visible in that pan, at least up on the rim. It was all back in the concentrates. But this really goes to show you that golden rule. When everything is the same size, gold rules. This pan versus the very first pan in the beginning of the video, the difference. And this took me maybe 20-30 seconds to pan back, and I'll suck that out and then pan it back one or 2 more times, because you can see there's still a few pieces of gold floating around down there. Alright, size 200. Let me remind you, when you get down to 100 and especially 200 and smaller, you're going to want to break that surface tension. You can already see it, you can already see it floating. Little drip, drip, drip. Man, what a pain this 200 mesh is. So I'm definitely getting more gold out of it than I have before. There's still some gold down there. I think it's going to take a few different rounds of bringing it up to the top. So there's an example of 200. I'm not going to show you all the 200. Because it's going to take me a few rounds. This red stuff in here, whether it's garnet sand or cinnabar, it hangs out with the gold. It's pretty tough to get down. Alright, for the last size, I have the 400 mesh. Not a lot in this one. There's definitely gold in it, but not nearly as much as the 200 mesh. Alright, there's the 400 mesh gold. Seems to be the 200 mesh size is the most difficult to extract. This came out pretty quick. So here's the result of the super cons. Referring back to that video clip at the beginning where there wasn't hardly any gold at the top of the pan when I was trying to pan it back unclassified. This is after classifying it. There's quite a bit of gold in there. A little bit of black sand left. Alright, now that I have that pretty much complete, I'm going to move on to the Cape Disappointment sands and see if I can't extract some more gold out of that. And for the Cape Disappointment, here's 100 and above 200, which is probably going to be the most difficult to get out. 400, and then minus 400s in the pan. Need a little surface tension breaker there. That's Cape Disappointment minus 400 mesh. This is Cape Disappointment 400 mesh. Cape Disappointment 200 mesh. I suspect this will be the more difficult one to pan out because the Super Cons was difficult. And there's quite a bit in there. 200 mesh is definitely being the most difficult size here. You can see it up at the edge of the pan there, into the red stuff, into the, I don't know, like a tan yellowish color, and then it rolls back here into the more black heavy sands. You can see it just speckled all through there. So this is gonna take some patience. That's not to say that the classifying isn't helping. I'm getting gold out of this that probably 60 to 75% of the gold out that has been trapped in stuff that I've already tried to get out. So it's gonna take some more work, but it helps for sure. All right, that's round one with the 200 mesh from Cape Disappointment. Nice little patch of gold there. That's probably about half of what's in the pan right now. All right, that's round two of 200 mesh. I think that's probably about where I'm gonna stop. And of course, I'm gonna save my cons for the next time when I run my super cons. All right, and for the last pan for this video, I have 100 mesh from Cape Disappointment. And that's the 100 mesh from Cape Disappointment. There's actually more in there than I thought there would be. All right, so that's the total gold that I had in the Cape Disappointment cons that I've been hanging on to for a while. I thought there'd probably be more gold in there, but I'm happy to get that out. All right, there's the total gold I got out of my super difficult cons I've been hanging on to. I applied the golden rule to it, classified everything down to the same size, and it really helped retrieve a lot more of that gold. All right, and one more shot of it up in the corner of the pan there. What do you guys think? The classifying set is probably not a magic wand that you're gonna wave at your gold. Your gold's not gonna magically hop into your vial, but this definitely gives you an edge, and it's a heck of a lot cheaper than the pieces of equipment that promise to get all your gold. And at the end of the day, you still have to process the cons from that equipment. This is straight out of the gold cube, concentrated down into a workable amount of concentrations, and then you saw my process from there. I classified it down, all those different sizes, and pulled out the fine gold.
Wow, that was a lot of classifying and a lot of black pans. Now I purposely picked the most difficult cons I had laying around the house. I really wanted to explain what the golden rule was. I wanted to demonstrate the classifier. The golden rule, when everything is the same size, gold rules. Pretty sure I showed you that in the pans, and definitely classifying all the way down to 400 got me more gold. Most of it was around 200, the troublesome gold, but yeah, other than that, I mean, I highly recommend the golden rule and the classifying kit. I really appreciate you guys watching. Until next time, good luck and be safe out there.